Hi there, English learners. Welcome to Speak English Naturally, where everyday life becomes natural English practice. I'm Rose.
And I'm Jack. I'm really happy you're joining us today, wherever you are and whatever you're doing.
Before we jump into our main topic today, Jack, I need to ask you about a message you sent me last night. You confidently told me you were going to wake up at 5 a.m. today to read a whole chapter of a book in Spanish. Did that actually happen?
Well, the alarm clock did ring at 5 a.m. That part of the plan worked perfectly. But then my brain woke up, looked at the very dark room, felt the cold air, and immediately negotiated a new contract with my blanket. I woke up at 7:30 a.m.
So the Spanish book is still sitting on your desk?
Exactly. It is sitting there, looking at me with extreme disappointment. I had the perfect plan, Rose. 2 hours of intense focus, grammar review, and vocabulary building. But the reality was 0 hours of study and 2.5 hours of extra sleep.
You know, I have done the exact same thing. Last month, I bought a beautiful, expensive notebook. I told myself, this is it. I am going to write an essay in French every single night. I wrote my name on the first page, and I have not opened it since.
It is so funny how we do that. We buy the notebook, we download 5 different language apps, we make a huge schedule, and then we just stare at it all and go watch a movie instead.
And that funny little situation connects directly to today's topic, because today we're talking about why those massive, perfect study plans usually fail and what we can do instead.
Today, we are exploring the Lazy Learner's Guide. We are going to talk about micro-habits for busy people. We will discuss why doing less is sometimes the secret to achieving more, especially when you are learning a language.
We will talk about why your brain hates big goals, how to build tiny routines that take only 2 or 3 minutes, and how to actually stick to them without feeling stressed or guilty. If you have ever felt like you just do not have enough time or energy to study English, this episode is exactly for you.
We want to change the way you look at language learning. It does not have to be a painful 2-hour session at a desk. It can be a tiny, easy part of your normal day.
Now, before we get deep into the conversation, let's do a quick level check. Today's episode is perfect for B1 and B2 English learners.
That means we are going to speak at a natural speed. We will use some common idioms, phrasal verbs, and everyday expressions that native speakers actually use when they talk about habits, psychology, and daily routines.
But please, do not worry if you do not catch every single word. You do not need a dictionary open while you listen. Just relax. Listen like you are sitting at a coffee shop with 2 friends. Let the meaning come to you naturally.
And if there are a few phrases that seem tricky, do not panic. Near the end of the episode, we will slow things down for our word tour. We will pick out some of the most useful vocabulary from our conversation, explain it clearly, and give you a chance to practice saying it with us.
We also love hearing from you. Sometime during this episode, I want you to think of one tiny habit you try to do every day. It could be drinking water, checking your email, or anything else. Let us know in the comments.
Yes, writing just one short sentence in the comments is a great micro-habit to practice your English today. So, get comfortable, maybe grab a cup of coffee or tea, and let's get started.
All right, Jack, let's talk about the fantasy versus the reality of learning English. Why do we always create these giant, impossible plans when we decide to learn something new?
I think it is because the beginning of any new goal is very exciting. When you decide, I am going to become fluent in English, your brain gives you a rush of motivation. In that moment of excitement, studying for 2 hours a day sounds easy.
It sounds amazing. In our imagination, we are sitting in a perfectly clean room, the sun is shining, we have a hot cup of coffee, and we are happily reading complex English articles without getting distracted by our phones.
Yes, the imaginary study session is always perfect. But the reality is that you come home from work, you are tired, your eyes hurt from looking at a computer screen all day, and you have to make dinner. In that real moment, a 2-hour English lesson feels like a punishment.
Exactly. It feels overwhelming. And that is a great word for our listeners to know. Overwhelming. When something is overwhelming, it feels too big, too difficult, or too heavy to handle.
And when a task feels overwhelming, what does the human brain do? It avoids it. The brain says, "This is too much work. Let's look at funny cat videos on the internet instead."
The funny cat videos always win. But this leads us to a very dangerous trap that almost all language learners fall into. It is what psychologists call the all-or-nothing mindset.
The all-or-nothing mindset. This is such an important concept. Rose, how would you describe this mindset for someone learning English?
The all-or-nothing mindset is when you believe that if you cannot do something perfectly, you shouldn't do it at all. For example, you tell yourself, if I don't have a full hour to study grammar today, it is not worth studying. I will just wait until the weekend when I have more time.
Exactly. You think it has to be all a perfect 1-hour session or nothing 0 minutes. And because life is busy and unpredictable, it is almost always nothing.
Yes, I hear this from my students all the time. They say, I am so busy this week, I didn't study at all. But I always ask them, did you have 5 minutes? And they usually say, well, yes, I had 5 minutes while I was waiting for the bus, but 5 minutes isn't enough to learn anything.
And that is the big lie we tell ourselves. We think that short amounts of time are useless, but that is completely wrong. Language learning is not about how long you study in one day. It is about how often you interact with the language.
So, if the all-or-nothing approach does not work, we need a different strategy. We need something that actually fits into a busy, tired, normal human life. And that brings us to the core of today's episode, micro-habits.
Micro-habits. Let's break that down. A habit is something you do regularly, often automatically. Micro means extremely small. So a micro-habit is a behavior that takes almost 0 effort to do.
It is a bite-sized action. Bite-sized is a great phrase. Think of a piece of food. If it is bite-sized, it is small enough to put in your mouth and eat easily. A bite-sized habit is a task so small that you cannot make an excuse to avoid it.
That is exactly the point. The goal of a micro-habit is to make it ridiculously easy. If your goal is to read an English book, your micro-habit is not read 1 chapter. Your micro-habit is read 1 sentence.
Read 1 sentence. But Jack, people will say, I am not going to become fluent by reading 1 sentence a day. How does reading 1 sentence actually help?
That is the magic of the strategy. The hardest part of any task is starting. We call this friction. Friction is the resistance you feel before you begin. Getting the book, opening it, and sitting down is the high friction part. Once the book is open and you read the first sentence, the friction disappears.
Oh, I see. So the goal is just to overcome the starting friction. Because usually, if you open the book to read 1 sentence, you will probably read 2 sentences, or maybe a whole paragraph.
Exactly. But even if you only read 1 sentence and then closed the book, you still win. You kept the habit alive. You proved to yourself that you are a person who practices English every day.
I love that. You are protecting your identity as a learner. It is a tiny win. We talk about tiny wins a lot on this podcast. A tiny win is a small success that makes you feel good and keeps your motivation going.
Yes, and we desperately need tiny wins because the language learning journey is very long. If you only celebrate when you pass a major exam, you will be miserable for months. You have to celebrate opening the book.
Okay, so let's give our listeners some real practical examples. If a traditional study plan is study vocabulary for 30 minutes, what is the bite-sized micro-habit version of that?
The micro-habit version would be, learn 1 new word while the coffee is brewing in the morning.
Oh, I like that. You attach the new habit to something you already do.
Yes, and there is a professional term for that. It is called habit stacking. You take a new habit and you stack it, or put it on top of, an old established habit.
Habit stacking. So drinking coffee is a strong habit. I do it every day on autopilot. Doing something on autopilot means doing it without thinking, like a machine. So I don't need motivation to make coffee.
Right. Your brain already knows how to make coffee. It does not require any mental energy. So you use that automatic action as a trigger for your new English habit. You tell yourself, after I turn on the coffee machine, I will review one English flashcard on my phone.
That is brilliant, because you don't have to find extra time in your schedule. The time is already there. You are just standing in the kitchen, waiting for the coffee anyway.
Exactly. You are turning dead time into learning time. And because it only takes 30 seconds, your brain does not panic. Your brain doesn't say, oh no, this is overwhelming. It says, sure, I can look at one word while the water boils.
Let's brainstorm a few more habit stacking ideas for our listeners. What about the commute? A lot of busy people spend an hour a day in their car or on a train going to work.
The commute is the perfect time for habit stacking. Instead of the traditional goal, listen to a 1-hour English lecture and take notes, the micro habit could be, when I start my car engine, I will press play on a 5-minute English podcast.
Like Speak English Naturally.
Exactly like Speak English Naturally. Or maybe, when I sit down on the train, I will change the language of my phone to English for the duration of the ride.
Changing the phone language is such a good trick. It forces you to interact with English without really trying. You just absorb the vocabulary naturally because you need to use your phone.
Another great habit stack is connected to winding down at night. A lot of people have the bad habit of scrolling through social media in bed before they sleep.
Guilty. I definitely do that. The room is dark, I am tired, and suddenly I have watched 45 minutes of cooking videos on Instagram.
Right, we all do it. So how can we use habit stacking there? The micro habit could be, when I get into bed and open Instagram, I will watch 3 short videos from an English teacher before I watch anything else.
That is so manageable. You are not saying stop using social media. You are just saying pay a small English tax before you enjoy your entertainment.
The English tax. I love that phrase. Yes, pay your English tax first. It is a tiny win right before you go to sleep.
But Jack, let me play the devil's advocate here. Playing devil's advocate means arguing against an idea just to test it. If someone only does these micro habits, 1 word at breakfast, a 5-minute podcast in the car, 3 short videos at night, is that really enough to become fluent?
That is the most common question people ask. The short answer is, over time, yes. The long answer is about consistency. Consistency means doing something regularly without stopping.
Consistency is so much more powerful than intensity.
Exactly. Think about going to the gym. If you go to the gym once a month for 5 hours, you will just be in terrible pain and you will not build any muscle. But if you go every day for 15 minutes, your body will slowly change. Language learning is exactly the same.
The brain needs repeated exposure. It needs to see a word, forget it, see it again, forget it again, and then finally remember it. That only happens if you are interacting with English every single day.
And here's the hidden benefit of microhabits. They naturally grow. When you build the habit of doing 5 minutes a day, you build trust in yourself. You stop seeing yourself as a lazy learner and start seeing yourself as a consistent learner.
That mindset shift is huge. When you feel successful, you naturally want to do more. Your 5-minute podcast might turn into a 15-minute podcast, not because you forced yourself, but because you actually wanted to hear the rest of the conversation.
But even if it stays at 5 minutes, it is still infinitely better than 0 minutes. Let's talk about what happens when life gets really chaotic. Because no matter how small the habit is, there will be days when everything goes wrong.
Oh, definitely. You get sick, your boss gives you extra work, your car breaks down, or you are just emotionally exhausted. On those days, even a 5-minute micro habit can feel like too much.
This is when people usually fall off the wagon. To fall off the wagon is a great idiom. It means to fail to continue a good habit or a diet. You miss one day, then you miss 2 days, and suddenly you haven't studied English in 3 months.
So how do we prevent falling off the wagon when life gets crazy?
You need a fallback plan. A fallback plan is an alternative plan you use when things go wrong. Your fallback plan needs to be the absolute bare minimum effort.
The bare minimum, the smallest amount possible to still count as doing it.
Exactly. So, let's say your normal microhabit is reading one short news article in English over breakfast. But today, you woke up late, the dog made a mess, and you have to run out the door. You have 0 time for the article.
So the fallback plan could be, I will read the headline of the article while I am walking to the bus.
Yes, just the headline. Or, I will think of one English sentence while I'm putting on my shoes. The goal is just to touch the language, even if it is for 5 seconds. You touch the language, you check the mental box, and you keep the habit alive.
It takes away all the guilt, because guilt is the enemy of learning. When you feel guilty for missing a study session, you associate English with negative feelings. You start avoiding English because it makes you feel bad about yourself.
That is so true. We need to associate English with positive feelings, with those tiny wins. If you use the bare minimum fallback plan, you don't feel guilty. You feel smart for keeping the streak going, despite having a terrible morning.
You know, Jack, I think another reason people struggle with consistency is their physical environment. We try to rely entirely on willpower. We say, I will force myself to open the English book. But willpower gets tired by the end of the day.
Willpower is definitely a limited resource. If you have a stressful day at work, making hundreds of decisions, your willpower battery is completely empty by the time you get home. You cannot rely on it to study.
So how can we use our environment to create micro habits that don't require willpower?
You have to design your space to make the good habit the easiest option. We talked earlier about friction. You want to reduce the friction for English and increase the friction for distraction.
Give me a practical example of designing the space.
Okay, if your goal is to read an English book before sleep, where is the book right now?
Usually, it is on a bookshelf across the room. Or maybe in my backpack.
Right, that is high friction. You have to get out of bed, walk across the cold room, find the book, and get back in bed. It is easier to just grab your phone from the nightstand. So, change the environment. Put the English book on your pillow in the morning.
On the pillow? That is aggressive but brilliant.
When you go to bed at night, you physically have to pick up the book to move it so you can sleep. The book is already in your hands. The friction is 0. At that point, it is easier to just open it and read one sentence than to put it away.
I love that. You are tricking yourself into doing the right thing. What about using technology to change the environment? Because our phones are usually the biggest distraction.
You can turn your phone into a micro-habit machine. Move all your social media apps to the second or third screen on your phone. Put your English dictionary, your podcast app, or a flashcard app on the home screen, right next to your thumb.
So when you unlock your phone on autopilot, the first thing you see is an opportunity to learn, not an opportunity to scroll.
Exactly. It is about making English unavoidable in a gentle, easy way. Another trick is to write a useful English phrase on a sticky note and put it on your bathroom mirror.
Oh, the bathroom mirror trick is a classic. Because you stand there brushing your teeth for 2 minutes anyway. You don't need willpower to look at the mirror. The phrase is just sitting there, entering your brain while you brush your teeth.
And you can change the sticky note every Sunday. It is a perfect bite-sized micro-habit.
Let's talk about tracking these habits. A lot of people love habit trackers, those apps or notebooks where you tick a box every day. But sometimes, tracking the habit becomes more stressful than the habit itself.
Habit trackers can be very motivating, but they can also trigger that all-or-nothing mindset. If you have a perfect streak of 20 days and then you miss one day, the broken streak feels terrible. Some people just give up completely because the tracker is no longer perfect.
So how should a lazy learner track their progress without getting stressed?
Keep the tracking as simple as the habit. Don't use a complicated app with graphs and charts. Just use a regular wall calendar. Every day you do your microhabit, even if it was just reading one sentence, put a simple X on that day.
And if you miss a day?
Here is the golden rule of habit tracking. Never miss twice.
Never miss twice. I like how clear that is.
Missing one day is just life. You were sick. You were busy. It happens. But missing 2 days is the start of a new negative habit. So, if you miss a Tuesday, your only goal for Wednesday is to make sure you do your microhabit, even if it is just the bare minimum fallback plan.
That takes off so much pressure. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to make sure you don't skip 2 days in a row. It is a very forgiving system.
It is forgiving, but it is also highly effective because it keeps you in the game. It prevents you from feeling like a failure.
Let's quickly summarise the Lazy Learners framework before we move into our word tour. Because we have covered some really powerful concepts that our listeners can start using today.
First, drop the all or nothing mindset. A 2-minute study session is infinitely better than a 0-minute study session.
Second, use habit stacking. Attach a tiny English task to something you already do on autopilot, like making coffee or starting your car.
Third, define your microhabit to be so small that it feels ridiculously easy. Read one sentence. Listen to one song. Learn one word. Reduce the starting friction.
Fourth, have a fallback plan for the crazy days. Know your bare minimum effort so you never have to feel guilty.
And finally, change your environment. Put the book on your pillow. Move the English app to your home screen. Make the good choice the easiest choice.
All right, before we wrap up today's conversation, let's slow things down a bit and take a look at our word tour.
These are the useful words and phrases you heard in today's episode. Listen carefully, repeat after us, and try to use one of them in your own daily conversations. This is your chance to practice speaking out loud.
Our first word is overwhelming.
Overwhelming means something feels too big, too difficult, or too much for you to handle emotionally or physically. It makes you feel completely stressed.
For example, the idea of studying English grammar for 2 hours every day was completely overwhelming.
Another example. She had so many emails to read after her vacation that the situation felt overwhelming.
Use this word when a task, a schedule, or an emotion feels heavier than you can manage in that moment.
Repeat after us. Overwhelming.
Overwhelming.
Our next phrase is the all or nothing mindset.
The all or nothing mindset is when you believe that if you cannot do something perfectly, you shouldn't do it at all. It is either 100% effort or 0% effort.
For example, her all or nothing mindset meant she stopped working out just because she missed one single day at the gym.
Another example. If you want to enjoy learning a language, you have to let go of that all or nothing mindset.
Use this phrase when you want to describe an unhelpful way of thinking, where the desire for perfection actually ruins your progress.
Repeat after us. All or nothing mindset.
All or nothing mindset.
The third phrase is bite-sized.
If something is bite-sized, it is very small and easy to manage. It comes from the idea of a piece of food being small enough to eat easily in one bite.
For example, he broke the complicated project into bite-sized tasks to make it easier for his team.
Another example. I preferred to learn English in bite-sized lessons while I am riding the bus to work.
Use this phrase when you want to talk about breaking a big problem, a big meal, or a big goal into tiny, comfortable pieces.
Repeat after us. Bite-sized.
Bite-sized.
Phrase number 4 is friction.
In daily life and psychology, friction means the resistance or difficulty you feel before you start doing something. High friction means it is hard to start. Low friction means it is incredibly easy.
For example, putting my phone in another room reduces the friction of studying because I cannot be distracted.
Another example. There is too much friction to go to that gym because it is 40 minutes away from my house.
Use this word when you want to talk about the physical or mental barriers that stop you from doing a good habit.
Repeat after us. Friction.
Friction.
Our fifth phrase is tiny win.
A tiny win is a small success. It might seem unimportant to other people, but it makes you feel good and keeps your personal motivation going.
For example, understanding one full sentence in the movie without reading the subtitles was a great tiny win for me.
Another example, do not ignore the tiny wins. They add up over time to create massive results.
Use this phrase to celebrate small moments of progress, especially when the final big goal is still very far away.
Repeat after us. Tiny win.
Tiny win.
Let's look at phrase number 6, habit stacking.
Habit stacking is the smart technique of taking a brand new habit and attaching it directly to an old, established habit that you already do every single day.
For example, I use habit stacking by listening to a short English podcast while I cook dinner.
Another example, habit stacking makes it much easier to remember your new routine because the old routine acts as an automatic trigger.
Use this phrase when discussing strategies for building consistency, improving productivity, and managing your daily time better.
Repeat after us. Habit stacking.
Habit stacking.
Our seventh phrase is on autopilot.
Doing something on autopilot means doing it automatically, without actively thinking about it at all, just like a machine.
For example, I was so exhausted this morning that I made my coffee completely on autopilot.
Another example, when you practice enough, speaking basic English sentences will eventually happen on autopilot.
Use this phrase when a physical action or routine is so familiar that your brain does not need to work hard to do it.
Repeat after us. On autopilot.
On autopilot.
Phrase number 8 is a very common idiom. Fall off the wagon.
To fall off the wagon means to fail to continue a good habit, a healthy diet, or a positive daily routine that you promise to keep.
For example, I was studying English every day for a whole month, but then I got sick and completely fell off the wagon.
Another example. Do not be too hard on yourself if you fall off the wagon. Just take a deep breath and start again tomorrow.
Use this idiom when you or someone else breaks a positive streak and temporarily stops doing a good behavior.
Repeat after us. Fall off the wagon.
Fall off the wagon.
Our ninth phrase is fallback plan.
A fallback plan is your alternative plan, or your plan B. It is the safe action you take when your original, perfect plan fails or becomes impossible.
For example, my main plan is to study for 30 minutes, but my fallback plan is to just read one short English article.
Another example. You always need a fallback plan for the days when your life gets incredibly busy and unpredictable.
Use this phrase when you are preparing a safe and easy option for the days when things go completely wrong.
Repeat after us. Fallback plan.
Fallback plan.
And our final phrase for today's word tour is bare minimum.
The bare minimum is the absolute smallest amount of effort or work required to still count as completing a task. It is doing just enough and nothing more.
For example, I was feeling terrible, so I just did the bare minimum at work today and went straight home.
Another example. On a bad day, simply reading one sentence of English is the bare minimum you need to keep your habit alive.
Use this phrase when you want to express doing just enough to survive a situation or complete a goal without giving any extra energy.
Repeat after us. Bare minimum.
Bare minimum.
And that concludes our word tour for today.
So, to recap today's conversation, you absolutely do not need perfect 2-hour study plans to drastically improve your English. In fact, if you always wait for the perfect time, you will probably just end up doing nothing.
Exactly. The real magic happens in those tiny, bite-sized moments of consistency. We need to embrace the micro habits. Read one sentence, listen to 5 minutes of a podcast on your commute, or review one new vocabulary word while waiting for your coffee to brew.
Your practical takeaway for today is to create just one English micro habit. Think about an automatic action you already do, like brushing your teeth, starting your car, or waiting for the bus. Then stack a tiny, low-friction English task right on top of it.
And we want to hear from you. What is your new English micro habit going to be? Tell us in the comments below. Even typing a simple sentence like, "I will read one paragraph before bed," is a perfect start.
You can also choose one phrase from today's word tour and practice using it in your own sentence down in the comments. If you need a quick reminder of the vocabulary we covered, we have pinned the entire word tour list right at the top of the comments section for you.
If you enjoyed this episode and found this Lazy Learner's Guide useful, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with a friend who is also trying to learn English. It really helps us grow the channel and create more helpful content for you.
Remember, do not feel guilty if you miss a day. Life happens. Just try your best not to miss twice. Give yourself some grace, keep the starting friction low, and always celebrate your tiny wins.
Keep practicing naturally, one real conversation at a time.
You've been listening to Speak English Naturally.
Real English, real conversations, positive energy.
We will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful, bite-sized learning week.